Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're popping the hood on the social media engine to unpack exactly how these algorithms operate and what recent European regulatory actions actually mean for the digital safety of our families. We hear a ton of noise about screen time, but today we're going to look directly at the mechanics of these platforms, drawing right from recent court rulings, European Commission investigations, and expert analysis. Let's dive in.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the engineered attention trap. Look at breaking the digital rules, the illusion of choice, failing the age gate, why this is a high-risk industry, and finally, the future of digital safety.
All right, Section 1, the engineered attention trap, how platforms are designed to capture focus.
So, here's a fundamental question we've got to ask ourselves about the digital world our kids live in every single day.
At the heart of this engine is something called a recommendation system. Basically, it's an algorithm trained directly on a user's data to predict and deliver the exact piece of content that's going to hold their attention the absolute longest. Think of it as a relentless profiling tool. It processes literally millions of choices in a fraction of a second. Every single time a user lingers on a post, well, the algorithm learns. It adapts in real time to keep the brain engaged and completely on autopilot.
And this is exactly where regulators are stepping in. The European Commission recently released some pretty striking preliminary findings. They're highlighting specific design features, things like infinite scroll, autoplay, push notifications, and those hyper-personalized feeds. They found these actively contribute to compulsive use. According to the Commission, Meta didn't properly assess how these exact features fuel that urge to just keep scrolling. That's a recipe for unhealthy habits, which is incredibly concerning for vulnerable minors who, let's face it, are still developing their self-regulation skills.
Moving on to Section 2, breaking the digital rules, the wave of regulatory action in Europe.
So, how are authorities pushing back? The primary weapon here is the Digital Services Act, or the DSA. It's this strict new legal framework in the EU built to force platforms to finally take responsibility for the societal fallout of their algorithms. The DSA basically says, hey, you can't just turn a blind eye to the risks your systems create. Platforms must diligently identify and mitigate those risks. It's effectively forcing them to prioritize user safety over their own profit-driven engagement metrics.
And if you want to know the stakes, try 6%. Platforms like Meta and X have already been hit with preliminary findings of DSA breaches. If these are confirmed, the Commission can drop the hammer with massive fines capped at up to 6% of their total worldwide annual turnover. For a behemoth like Meta, pulling in hundreds of billions in revenue, we are talking about staggering multi-billion-dollar penalties. That definitely gets their attention.
That brings us to Section 3, the illusion of choice, hiding the safe options from users.
Let's break down exactly how these platforms fight to keep control over what users see. There was this fascinating Dutch lawsuit recently, filed by the nonprofit Bits of Freedom. It exposed the deliberate, calculated steps Meta takes to steer users away from safe, non-profiled, chronological feeds. Step 1, hide those options behind totally deceptive interface designs. Step 2, even if you do find it, the app automatically reverts right back to the profiled feed the next time you open it. And step 3, if you manage to permanently opt out, they actually restrict basic features like your direct messages. The whole thing is designed to ensure you stay locked into targeted, ad revenue-generating content. Well, a Dutch judge wasn't having it, leading to a massive landmark ruling. The judge explicitly stated that this behavior runs completely counter to the purpose of the DSA. They ruled that these deceptive practices deny users genuine freedom of choice and improperly skew what information consumers and families are exposed to. To quote the ruling, it's a significant disruption of the autonomy of users.
To put teeth into that ruling, the court gave Meta just 2 weeks to make opting out easy and permanent. And the penalty if they don't? A cool 100,000 euros for every single day they fail to comply. That is a loud and clear signal that courts are just completely losing patience with user-hostile design.
Let's jump into Section 4, failing the age gate, why current platform safeguards aren't working. Here is a frankly staggering statistic. The terms and conditions explicitly state you have to be at least 13 to use these apps. But EU officials estimate that a whopping 12% of children under 13 are actively using Instagram and Facebook right now. The age gates, they simply are not holding up. And the European Commission's investigation nailed down exactly why. It turns out under 13s are easily bypassing the rules just by entering a fake birth date. There's virtually zero verification.
Plus, if you try to report an underage account, the tools are clunky and rarely have any proper follow-up. What about those default time management tools the platforms love to boast about? The Commission found teens easily dismiss them, and they don't lead to any meaningful reduction in screen time anyway. Ultimately, these mitigation measures are just largely ineffective, leaving kids wide open to age-inappropriate experiences and some pretty deep algorithmic rabbit holes.
Which brings us to a huge, vital takeaway for families. The Commission explicitly noted that Meta's parental controls are only effective if parents possess adequate technical expertise and can somehow devote significant continuous time to managing them. Regulators are officially drawing a line in the sand. Platforms cannot just offload the responsibility of navigating these inherently risky algorithms onto the shoulders of busy, exhausted parents. The tech companies built the systems, they need to make them safe by default.
This seamlessly leads into Section 5, a high-risk industry, a new paradigm for regulating tech.
Let's explore this completely new way of thinking about big tech. Experts are arguing that we need to start treating social media the same way we treat aviation or the pharmaceutical industry. Think about it for a second. Aviation is governed by preventative safety. We don't judge airlines purely on the percentage of flights that manage to land safely. We judge the whole industry on its ability to prevent catastrophic, worst-case failures. But right now, social media operates entirely on reactive safety. It gets judged on average accuracy, and we only see investigations or get apologies after the harm has already happened.
This becomes incredibly relevant when you look at how content actually gets delivered. Because these platforms actively curate, target, and profit from what you see, those old legal safe harbors, the ones designed decades ago for simple websites that just passively hosted text, they just do not apply anymore. Paid advertising pipelines are essentially commercial assembly lines. The platform selects the buyer, curates the specific audience, and profits directly from the delivery. Make no mistake, this is high-risk infrastructure, and it desperately needs to be regulated like it.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the future of digital safety, moving toward preventative architecture.
So what does this safer future look like? European regulators are pushing hard for structural, preventative solutions. We're talking about forcing platforms to disable addictive features, like autoplay and infinite scroll, by default, instead of burying the off switch deep in some obscure settings menu. It means implementing screen time breaks that actually work, demanding regular independent safety audits of these algorithms, and even developing a secure, privacy-respecting EU-wide age verification app to finally take that massive burden off individual parents.
The absolute biggest takeaway from this explainer is understanding this grand regulatory shift. We are moving away from episodic reactions, issuing notices and fines only after a giant public scandal or after kids are harmed. Instead, we're moving toward a model of continuous, preventative assurance. The core goal of the Digital Services Act is to mandate that these platforms actually prove their systems are safe for our kids before they are deployed at scale. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a crucial question to think about. Will society finally demand that the algorithms shaping our children's reality prove their safety in advance? Are we ready to hold our digital infrastructure to the exact same preventative safety standards we already expect and demand in the physical world? It's a conversation every family, and quite frankly, every regulator absolutely needs to keep having. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack all of this today and keep asking the right questions about the technology in your home.